Welcome to the video, and we're just about to get started here with the stock side of things. So this is just a little bit later than normal, so apologies for that. We are going to get started here into the S&P. Now, let's have a quick look. This is on 1 hour time frame. Let me just check what chart was I on a minute ago. Zoom. Right, we'll get into Zoom in a second. Let me add that to the list. So, come back to that in a second. It's ZM. So, let's get started into this. So, we can see last week we've seen that, when was the open? This is Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday. So pretty much last week there was nothing really much happening on the S&P 500. It closed pretty much as a doji. So what that means is there's indecision between the buyers and sellers. So that's why the wicks are pretty volatile. So you have big up and down moves, no real direction. But if you look at it from a price action standpoint, you can see that, yeah, it's, you've had an explosive move, pullback, an explosive move, a pullback, explosive, pullback, explosive. We haven't had the pullback yet. And we haven't had a significant pullback. So that's something you need to keep an eye in the back of your head, is we've had no significant pullbacks. And the next significant pullback area would be along here. The reason being that it's quite a drop. And it would probably attract a lot of people who on Twitter are constantly bearish. It's one of those things, it's almost like Brexit. People who are constantly going on about that, a really bearish rhetoric on, the S&P 500, the market, and all that there sort of stuff, which is fine, fair enough, but you don't need to be, on it all the time, because you're going to miss certain opportunities. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Look for the pullback as a good sort of area along about here. So good pullback. Pretty decently. Let me see if I can get some Fibonacci levels up. So from the swing low to swing high, yeah, this purple box is the perfect area for a 50 to 0.618 pullback, and yeah, it's pretty decent. We could get a shallow pullback into this area where it goes with a trend, but I'm sort of thinking we do see a bit of a deeper pullback just due to the nature of this, and it's what we need is to trap a lot of sellers or short sellers into this in order to spike higher. So, this candle here could be enough to attract that, and it could be enough to get the momentum, because again, like, stop loss orders will be sitting in the long here for those who have been shorting, and yeah, it's one of those things you really want to keep an eye on. We can obviously completely ignore that and burst out higher anyway. I would say there's a few shorts in these candles here, a bit premature. I was looking myself at it from a slightly more bearish standpoint on the lower time frames. It was starting to diverge a bit here, and you can see this was an upward sloping resistance. You could probably actually say this is a rising wedge formation. So you can see rising support being test, and then breaks below, comes back up. So this is an area to, it's one you want to keep an eye on if you're a day trader. If you're not a day trader, there's not much point in looking at lower time frames. So yeah, that's pretty much covers it for the S&P 500. Nothing on UVXY that I can see. Oh, this is quite interesting. Oil is starting to spike quite nicely here. So, looks like it's violated any Fibonacci pullbacks. Yeah, so as of last week, we sort of, on the weekly, we pulled back into the 0.618. Still have this little area, this little red one. What number is that? 0.7? Just double check. I think it's 0.7 Fibonacci pullback. That's a very deep, it's not one I use overly often. It's one where you want to look for extreme value. So if you're looking to short this, or if you're looking to long something, you want to look potentially and see if there's any other candle or price action in along this sort of area here, just like any other Fibonacci sort of tool area, the 0.618 or the 0.5. So it's one you really want to keep an eye on, see what happens in this market. Again, we pop this a little bit higher. We can see that an upward sloping trend line still in place here, could bounce off this and reject this line. And if we look left, there is a, oops, could argue that this here is a pretty decent resistance zone, so we're starting to test into that. 0.66, or sorry, $66 per barrel is a decent area to start looking on, keeping a good eye on, and see if there is any potential in this area. If there's not, so be it. Not really much you can do about it. But it's a good area to sort of keep an eye on for the next week. If we do get any sort of decent rejections and price action, I will probably look at this market again and just keep a very close eye on it. Not much happening in lithium, so we'll just go on. Bitcoin, we're still really holding this area here. I'm just overly nervous about, a little bit nervous about holding this. If I was to try and hold it, anyway, I wouldn't really want to be buying it up here. Reason being is we can see these massive sell candles that just randomly appear out of nowhere. Here, and this massive buy candle, although this did have a fair amount of volume, I can remember, yeah, so it does have a fair amount of volume to it, which does put more weight onto this candle as it being a, it's more true as opposed to these sudden really random sell candles and buy candles that you see with little volume. So it's definitely one, you can see the volume is churning here, and it's quite good to see, although I'm still in the camp of where I think we can see a decent pullback, and if it's a trend pullback, probably pull back to 4.9 before we see anything higher. If it's a larger retracement type of pullback, so looking back here, could come all the way back into this zone, which I'm still anticipating we might end up doing. It's probably the most value, it's the most valuable place people would want to step in and buy this market. So it's one I'm really keeping an eye on, and yeah, just going forward. Ripple's doing absolutely nothing yet again. Although let's go on to BAT a second. So BAT BTC, that'll do. This one has been quite nice, all this year, and towards the end of last year, it's come up quite nicely. Very nice one to keep an eye on long term. Yeah, I do like BAT, our basic attention token. It's quite good. I like their Brave browser, their token, their whole ecosystem is really cool. That's one out of most of them, it's one of the ones I really like to keep a very close eye on. So just back on to another market here, gold. We can see here that the head and shoulders that we've been covering since pretty much end of Jan or start of February. Yeah, this head and shoulders pattern is really tidy. It's not one I would take. I don't like these sort of break and retest of the neckline. That's not really my style. I like to take the right shoulders. It's just my own preference. Yeah, but there's nothing really much happening in this market. So to begin the week could be a bit quieter because it's Easter. So yeah, there's not much else happening on it. So I'm not really that interested. Uranium still creating this price action in the fallen wedge, and yeah, some pretty decent price action. If we break above this downward sloping trend line, which it hasn't achieved yet, it looked like it was going to a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately just hasn't done that just yet. So still one keeping a really close eye on. And yeah, so let's get into these last two. These are stocks. So Zoom, which is not the one people were thinking of the other day. It was actually ZM, which is Zoom. It's like a webinar software. They had an IPO, and it seems that people on Twitter were trying to say that Zoom was this one, and so this sort of helped cause, I would say, there's a bit of a run up. I would say those who were planning this, it's almost like a pump and dump type thing, will have been buying in along here. You can see with the volume starting to really uptick randomly out of nowhere, and it's not long before this IPO actually came out, so you can sort of put two and two together and think, right, yeah, there's a lot of people getting long in here, and then as price starts to get a bit more volatile, chasers start to come in. IPO day was 18th, so that was here. So I think people were starting to get long and thinking this was, anyone that doesn't do any research whatsoever will have bought the wrong ticker, and then obviously you get burned by doing such a thing. This is the actual IPO here. This is the ticker that went the other day. That was Friday. So as you can see, I don't really trade IPOs myself. It's more of a short-term thing, like literally day trading, if it is the case. So yeah, it's not really, I haven't taken any trades in this one, but I might look at it a bit closer over the next few sessions and see how it goes. I need to look at the fundamental side of it as well. It's not like Lyft where it's really a cash burner. I don't know about Zoom itself. I'm assuming it would be more better, considering it's something that I used to use as well. So yeah, pretty much that wraps it up for this week. Any questions, do feel free to let us know, and you can catch us in our Facebook groups, and enjoy the rest of your trading week. Have a good one. Thanks.